shack in the little grass skirt in Hawaii. Richard Shaw.
Stephen, how are you?
You know what? I'm good. I'm very good. Thank you. Thank you for asking.
I had no idea we were going to get that treat right there in the beginning.
You what? Say again?
I had no idea we were going to get that treat in the beginning. That was beautiful.
I wanted to surprise you.
So, you know, I think I speak for everyone who's going to be joining tonight, that we are super happy to see you. And I know for folks, all of our supporters of Janie's Fun, and I'm sure your fans around the world, to hear your voice tonight.
You can hear my voice, but it's all about giving them a voice, isn't it? Right about now.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, it's been an amazing month. We thanks to you and reaching out to some family and friends, we've been live each Friday for the last 4 Fridays, and having your daughter Mia kick us off on May 1st, and then friend Terry Crews, who was amazing and a great advocate for Janie's Fun, and Kristen DeTillo, who is an amazing actress and writer who led that. And then we had your friend John Stamos last week. So we've had some amazing friends that believe deeply in this work joining us the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, it's been really something. One after another, they all said such profound stuff about what's really going on and how they feel. I was blessed.
Yeah.
And I called Mia up after she spoke and had a tear or two with her. Called up John Stamos and gave him a lot of shit. But how are we doing with words? Are we allowed to say shit?
I am, but yeah.
But I'm not.
You're the founder. You can say whatever you want to say.
You know, and what about your, you know, it's like for me right now, it's these little pretzels with peanut butter in them.
Yeah, love them.
And for you, it's your little.
The squiggly. Yeah, it's power.
You're squiggly. I told you forever that you're squiggly is what's happening.
Yeah.
So there's something wrong with the world today.
Yeah. So
the light bulb's getting dim.
There's meltdown
in the sky.
Absolutely.
If you can judge it, a wise man by the color of his skin, then mister, you're a better man than I.
Yep.
You know, I saw something on Will Smith the other day, and he said racism isn't getting worse; it's just getting filmed.
Yeah.
I thought that just speaks for itself right there about what's going on today.
You know, I mean, you know, it was 3 weeks ago on the 8th of May, you know, we had Terry Crews, and at that point, you know, it had just come to light about what happened to Ahmaud Arbery in Georgia, and you know, Terry, as a man of color, I think had some profound things to say, but just as another human, I think it's something that we all in the last couple of days with George Floyd and trying to figure out where's justice. And I'll just say this, I mean, when the pandemic hit and we had a letter that went out that you wrote that talked about the work that we're doing and a lot of the feelings that people were having of uncertainty and people being scared about what was happening in our world. You know, one of the things about Janie's Fun is we obviously are working to address abuse of girls and helping girls heal. But we didn't, you know, you didn't create this just to do that. I think it's one of the things that we fight for justice every day for girls that have gone through horrible, horrible experiences. And that justice doesn't stop with girls that we're trying to help. That justice is for every brother and sister in this world. And so you watch what happens the last couple of days and your heart goes out and your heart's broken for it. And I think we all want more for our country. And you know, I think to not mention that would be ill-advised by us, but I think it's something that is in a lot of people's hearts right now.
I think people are getting a lot of hope there's hope and enlightenment. If people are getting enlightened by what's going on. And then in enlightenment, then you can do something about it. The system's broke. And enlightened people will see that and say, this is unacceptable.
Yep. Yeah.
This has to be done.
Yeah. And I think I'm thinking back to February 28th, and I was before the pandemic hit, and you were in Los Angeles, and I got a call. I was in a concert, and I stepped outside to take your call, and you were I don't want to say you were angry, but you were a little angry. You had just watched the first couple episodes of the trials of Gabriel Fernandez, and you talk about injustice and what happened to that young boy in LA County. And, you know, from that moment forward, you know, soon after the pandemic hit, and you're thinking, okay, so now schools are closed, and now kids can't leave their homes, and we know this abuse is happening, and what are we supposed to do, and how are we supposed to react? And, you know, what Janie's Fund did essentially was immediately make sure that our PSAs that gave the number out for the child abuse hotline were run, and iHeartRadio was a great partner, and they ran our PSAs that gave that number out, that 1-800 for a child number, so that people can text that number or call that number. And I think that was, I mean, that was our first reaction, is let's make sure that kids that are stuck in a bad situation, if they hear this PSA on the radio, they can text this number and ask for help and get help if they can't leave their homes. And so I think that was the first important step. The second step was why we're here tonight, and that is to really make sure more funding is getting to programs that are helping girls. And you know, like we talked about, you know, having friends and John and Terry and Mia and Kristen announce these gifts to the LifeSet program. I know the LifeSet program is something that's near and dear to you, as a program that helps these older teens and young women that have experienced abuse. And so you decided to give out $500,000 this month, right? And
and having the states match it dollar for dollar.
Yeah.
That's when I went off on it. It was just it's a beautiful thing, which shows that you're sharing, and they're sharing the dream, and it's not going to just stop with our dollars to them. It's they're doubling it.
Yep.
And they're going to do something about it. And you and I we're going to just stay with them, work with them, call them, see to it that these things get dealt with. In the Gabriel Fernandez case, Ken Sensimino called me, said, "You got to see this."
Yeah.
And Amy and I sat down and we watched it and wept. I told you to watch it, and you watched them all at once. And it was so disheartening. I mean, to think, you know, that, you know, the caseworkers were working on, they had 50 cases at once, single people. Did they have any background in psychology, I would ask? Do they know, what are they feeling when they knock on a door and someone opens? Can they feel what's going on inside the house? Do they just leave when a mother says, no, everything is all right? And this is where, you know, we need to radically transform the system. This is where that has to happen. Will it happen overnight? No, but just us talking about it and people talking about it, and John Stamos, you know, who works for the
the National Child Abuse Hotline. He's a national spokesperson for that. Yeah.
For a long time he's been, and so I had the most wonderful discussion with him about what's going on in the world today and how we're trying to fix it little by little.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. And so one of the things we've done the last couple of weeks is, you know, when we announced that we were doing this to help young women across our country with LifeSet, you know, we ask for questions every single week. And I think I'm always amazed that the questions we get from where we get them. And this week was no different. Probably it was a little different in the sense that we got more questions this week from more countries this week for you. And so just sifting through all those questions has been a little bit of a challenge, but I think we got some great feedback, some great questions. I will say,
did Lenny Kravitz call in yet?
Not yet, but he should. If he hasn't yet, he should. But I would say the country this week by far that is our winning country is Brazil. Brazil has been on fire all week and has asked amazing questions. And I knew that you had an amazing fan base there, but that has been overwhelming. And specifically, we've had someone from Brazil help us this week with some of this stuff, is Paula. And I just say this, is that it's been amazing how Brazil's turned out. And so at some point, when you start performing live again, Brazil's got to be a place you got to go back to, because they absolutely love you.
I love Brazil too.
Yeah. So
we've done a lot of huge concerts there. I can't think of the name of the one, but it's
Rock in Rio.
Oh, Rock in Rio.
Yeah.
I forget that. there's 300,000 people there, and then the promoters, of course, put it on TV. And I remember getting there, and there's this Jesus, up on the mountain, and we went up and visited that. And then, as I always do, I like to go to the farmers markets, and I found this fruit, and a little thing on top, and it was a nut, and it's a cashew. And I got it back, took the bag out of my hotel room. I'm digging to get this cashew out, not realizing that the plant has a protective, what's that stuff you put on your face? A protective defense against monkeys eating the nuts.
An enzyme or something.
It just burnt my lip, and of course I'm on stage the next day, and I was bleeding, and it was horrific. But Brazil, oh my God, and particularly, you know, when they have their
Yeah, a lot of passion.
carnival,
Yeah.
and then going to each house and seeing what's going on with each band and the drumming and all that, which reminds me of the drumming when I first met Youth Villages, and you invited me down. You invited me down
Down
to
at Atlanta.
Oh, in Atlanta, yeah. And where is it, Amy? Oh, way over. Yeah. By the way, I want to thank you know, Patrick Lawler, obviously yourself, our Janie's Angels that gave us, you know, money every month. Jen Jones, let's not forget her. But Atlanta and the yurt, you brought me into this giant yurt, and there were 35 drums that were made by hand, these djembes, and the girls came in one at a time, and they were very young girls. So I could see how Youth Villages worked when you first adopted me and Janie's Fund.
Yeah.
And each girl got behind the drums, and we were just talking a little bit before, and some girls couldn't talk. Some girls wouldn't talk. I get the shyness factor, but some girls just couldn't talk. And I was told silently, you know, listen, hasn't really been talking yet. There was so much abuse going on. And then they all sat down behind a drum. It was handmade by a guy there.
Tom Harris. Yeah.
Yeah. And